Good evening and welcome to The Debate. We are joined in the studio this evening by Shaun and Darren Bent. We'll be looking back at a big night in the Champions League and the EFL too. What a terrible night for Spurs it was. So they conceded 7 goals for the first time ever at home. City went through comfortably, although they left it somewhat late. Leeds are the first team to beat West Brom, taking themselves to the top of the table. Last night's draw at Old Trafford did little to cheer the fans of either side. Just how much work is there to do for both? Newcastle are already in serious trouble. Just what can Steve Bruce do to halt the slide? And was Chris Wilder right or over the top with his blunt assessment of Dean Henderson's howler? As always, we want to hear from you. You can tweet us at Sky Sports PL using the hashtag #TheDebate. This is The Debate. Well, an absolute horror show for Tottenham Hotspur this evening, conceding no less than 7 goals against Bayern Munich. Darren, to be honest with you, are you in a state of shock?
I'm a little bit. Obviously, we knew the situation down at Spurs has not been great for a little while now, but to be on the back of that hiding, it's scary to think. I mean, to concede 7, I mean, you talk about the final of the Champions League last season, probably had high expectations this season, but to get beat 7, and in the manner they did as well at home, I mean, it's really disappointing. Did
they, for you, completely capitulate?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, obviously, to go 1-0 up, as they did in the first game against Olympiacos, and then obviously went 2-0 up and then they let that slip. You still felt with Bayern Munich, they were still playing well enough to get themselves in the game. But as I said, to concede 7, I mean, the last 2 goals were quick fire in about 5 minutes. I mean, it's scary to think, and it just doesn't seem like the same Spurs team that we were used to seeing over the last 4 seasons. We've all sang their praises, how good they are in Europe and what they did to overcome some of the situations they were in last season. The Champions League shouldn't have got out of the group, ended up getting to the final. But as I said, this season now, as I said, they just don't seem like the same Spurs. They've not got the same hunger, the same buzz. Pochettino's not got that same charm that he had last season. So for me, maybe behind the closed doors, but something seems to be seriously wrong.
Shaun, what did you make of it as it unfolded?
Yeah, for me, I think as the game wore on, I think he was chasing it when it was 4-2, and he brought action on you, thinking he's willing to get that 3rd goal. And I think it looks as though they adjusted the system. They had a 4-3-2-1, and so when the balls were going wide, they were unbalanced. Who was going to be that one to go wide? Sometimes it was Son who was going out there, so therefore he ended up being deep, and it was just unbalanced. And I think it'll be interesting to see if he calls and says, you know, it's his tactics that sort of called it, you know, or affected the game.
Would either of you be critical of Pochettino for chasing at 4-2? I mean, you always leave yourself open to that, especially against a team of that magnitude.
I was thinking the group stages that you don't need to chase because you've got to play them again. Like, it's not like it's a semi-final, it's second leg and then you're chasing the game. You've got... OK, you're not going to win the game from that point of view, so you've got to obviously don't get beat. Don't make it the score like it was there. You obviously hold out, you go, OK, we have to go again, we have to regroup. But to go in there and chase the game at 4-2, when the game was pretty much over, you leave yourself exposed at the back. And as I said, they've got players that can bomb forward at such speed. I mean, as I said, I just think for me, especially second half mainly, I think Pochettino got his tactics wrong.
Yeah, but I think just chasing the game, and he wanted to go for that 3rd goal. He wanted to get the 3rd goal, and again, I could see why he's going for it, because he's got a belief that, listen, we got to the finals. Bayern Munich or Real Madrid, no matter who it is, we're capable of beating them. And I think he had this belief in him. But I think when it goes to 5-2, he has to sort of think, OK, let's just walk away with that and let that be bad enough damage. But it seems that they just collapsed, and you know, a couple of goals I'd missed, I'd go into the loo and then come back, and I was like, well, you know, goals are scored here. So yeah, it's really falling apart. It's unraveling.
Is that perhaps the most disturbing thing for Tottenham and Tottenham fans tonight? The collapse. And the scoreline, of course, is awful, but the actual collapse, seemingly a mental collapse.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people are now going to obviously throw that title at Spurs again, like bottlers and stuff, and I mean, I don't think they are, but again, I think sometimes you've got to pay respect to who you're playing against as well, and for them, for me, as I said, they were in the game first up, but as Shaun was saying there, the moment it went 4-2, 5-2, you've got to go, hold a second here, we're not going to get back into this game. Like, miracles don't happen all the time. What happened last season for them, getting out of the group, getting past Ajax and these teams there, what they did to Manchester City, like, it's not always going to work that way. So when you get to 4-2, 5-2, you've got to say, right, you know what, let's get, like, the leaders in the group, like the Llorises, the Kanes, the Vertongans, have got to go, you know what, let's just everyone just retreat now. We've taken a bit of a battering, but let's not let it get out of control. Let's just get the shape and we'll play from behind. But to then keep trying to push forward and just getting caught in a counter attack. I mean, it's not good game management at all.
Well, another thing that I see a lot of managers do. I mean, your team's getting beat 5-2, 6-2, 7-2, and there seems to be this calmness and. The fact the standards that they had, I'm surprised that there isn't sort of arms waving and saying,
screaming.
Having a go at. Everyone seems to be calm, whether you're winning 3-0 or losing 7-2. And I'm amazed that he's not really animated as this is ridiculous for my team to give me this type of return.
Might it be that it sometimes, and it happens with coach, they just feel powerless, and there's nothing they can do as it's unfolding in front of them. For all the shouting and screaming you can do, it's.
Well, yes, I've been a player. I'm sure Darren's been the same. You've been a player where you would sort of just ignore your manager. But at least it's showing on his side that you're not happy with this. To keep that same body language of I'm calm, I'm composed, but my team is losing 6-2, 7-2.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
Shaun, it's not lost, obviously, in the actual group itself. There's still plenty of football to play. But what sort of damage does a defeat like that do?
Well, listen,
we're not talking a bad defeat. We are talking an absolute hammering.
It's a hammering, and these players will go home hurt because they know how close they came to last season of winning Champions League. So they'll go home and think, well, maybe we're a long way off, and maybe some one or two players are off it in terms of the arrogance and confidence, but. They're just a long way off it at this moment.
For me as well, I feel after the first game, I feel like even though they go in front, they still lack belief because they went 2-0 against Olympiacos, and then Olympiacos kind of got themselves back into it, and they little bit capitulated again then, and obviously conceded the two, end up getting a point. But even when they went 1-0 up today, I still didn't feel they really believe that they can go on and win that game. Whereas the Spurs last season, if they went 1-0 up, they'd go and get a second, third, fourth. But this season, as I said, they just seem to be a bit, with 1-1 up, but OK, we're still quite in between what to do. And even Pochettino himself, with his tactics, as we spoke about tonight, he's still a bit in between. He's not quite sure who his best 11 is at the minute. Some of his main stars are not firing at the minute. Can't get him on the pitch, can't get him off the pitch. And I said at the minute, for Spurs, it just seems like they're in a real funny situation.
Who's his best right-back?
I like Walker-Peters, and I've said this from the get-go. And I wonder now if Pochettino does think, well, maybe I let Kieran Trippier go maybe a little bit too early. Because Serge Aurier, for me, he's a bit of a liability. I mean, positionally, he's all over the place. He's always got that tendency to dive in so that he can give a foul away, or, as we saw at the weekend, a red card for petulance. So for me, when you get in these big games and these big competitions, you can't afford to be having passengers. And for me, a little bit, Serge Aurier is a little bit one where he's always walking that tightrope where you don't quite know what's going to happen.
Is it too easy to say every time it doesn't go quite right for Spurs, it's showing the cracks, if you like? It's the problems behind the scenes, as Potts referred to the other week within the squad, people having different agendas. Or, eventually, do the problems at a club come out on the pitch itself?
I do believe they come out, and to be fair to Spurs, they're one club, I'd say, that keeps a lot of their business in-house. It very rarely gets out. So when, obviously, the cracks do appear and it does start to leak out like it is at the minute, it can get magnified a little bit. But for me, I just think at the minute they're in twos and threes. Like, you talk about the contract situations with Eriksen, Vertonghen, Danny Rose. I mean, at the end of the season, well, not even at the end of the season, in January, they could be losing 4 of their best players. That's not been addressed, and these are things that Daniel Levy very rarely lets happen.
I think he's trying to address it, because Vertonghen, we were thinking, why wasn't he playing a few weeks back? He's obviously resolved that and got him back in the team. Eriksen, I think he's put him on in the desperation of trying to get the third goal. And I'll be really surprised if Eriksen doesn't play the next game. I think he's now in a position as a manager, do you play your best player, your best creative player, or do you say, well, I'm going to stand on my haunches and think, well, I'm showing everyone who's boss and who's gaffer around here. I believe Eriksen's got to play, because he creates those opportunities for the players. But
he doesn't seem to have taken a firm line with Eriksen this season. Sometimes he plays him, sometimes he doesn't. Last season, he was probably one of the first names on the team sheet. And I can understand, as Shaun says, look, if he wants to leave him out and be consistent with that. But he's flip-flopping between the two.
Yeah, he is, yeah. And Christian Eriksen's obviously came out and said that he wants to leave. Obviously, he said he'd like a new challenge, and obviously that seems to be
he wants to leave.
Yeah, the fashion phrase, yeah. Of
Might
course.
have said it.
But at the same time,
it looks that way.
I don't quite understand that whole situation, because if he wants to leave, then you can sell him and get a lot of money for him, but don't let him walk away for nothing. As you said there, Shaun, he's their most creative, best player.
You can't make him sign. If he won't sign a contract, you can't do anything.
Then you've got to sell him. If he's not going to sign a new contract, you can go and get...
Would you still be playing him every game?
I would still play him.
would, yeah.
I would still play him.
I would, but as I'm saying, if he doesn't want to be there and you can go and recuperate a lot of money for him, then sell him rather than let him walk away in January at the end of the season for nothing.
But neither of you can say that Spurs lost that game so heavily tonight because he didn't start the game, can you?
No. Listen, he would have helped create more chances.
Yeah.
You know,
as Darren said, they went 1-0 up.
Yeah, he wouldn't have contributed greatly to the defensive side of the game. So I think it's more going wrong there, and you know, it'll be interesting to hear his remarks on whether he takes the fault for it. You know, Pochettino says, I hold my hands up. You know, tactically, I made this adjustment or that adjustment, or he says, my players are way beyond that level, no matter what tactics they play, and therefore they shoulder some of the blame as well as him.
Do we also have to tip our hats to Bayern Munich for a superb performance? And obviously, Serge Gnabry is going to take all the headlines with an extraordinary performance. 4 goals.
Yeah, I mean, that is some performance to score 4 goals in the Champions League, especially against a side like Spurs. But Bayern were fabulous today. I mean, even like anyone who was watching that game, the masterclass of playing out from the back, from the goalkeeper through the... They didn't panic on the ball, they passed it, they created opportunities. But also as well, I felt the way Spurs set up made it easier for them because they were just attacking down the flanks. I mean, the fullbacks were 2v1 all the time, so it became quite easy for them. But I said, as far as taking care of the ball and creating opportunities, I mean, Bayern Munich were fabulous tonight.
He was €8 million as a signing for Bayern.
Yeah, I mean, what a deal that is. You know, there's having belief in yourself and there's disrespecting the opposition. And I think it's a bit of both. It was having too much belief in his team and disrespecting Bayern Munich. Because Bayern Munich are giants. We know what they're like in the Champions League. And you know if they get a rhythm, this is what they can do. Most teams are a little bit more cautious in terms of when they play them and don't leave themselves so wide open. And Bayern Munich exposed that, and that's the giants they are.
Yeah, I feel Spurs tried to go toe-to-toe with them, and I think sometimes, as you said there, you've got to show respect to your opponents. Yeah, as I said, we saw them do it last season in the Champions League, and maybe that came into their thinking, well, we can go toe-to-toe at home against anyone. But sometimes it just doesn't work like that.
Do you think in some ways perhaps Spurs, to continue your theme there, or your theory, they were looking for almost a result, a statement result that could kick-start their season? And that's perhaps why they went in with that mentality. Yeah,
potentially, and also self-belief as well. Pochettino's probably got them thinking that, yeah, listen, you're a good team, which they are a good team, Spurs. Player for player as well, you'd probably say it's quite even. So you say you can go out and beat this team toe-to-toe, player for player. He'd probably say, I'd prefer to have these players in this dressing room than them. But as I said, sometimes you've got to pay respect to the other team and you've got to show them respect that you can't just step onto that pitch and feel you can play the same way they do because arguably tonight, well, not even arguably, they played that system a lot better than Spurs played theirs.
Well, you talk about statements. He's made a statement, not the positive one. So.
Well... Does it also increase, if you like, the focus, the question marks on Pochettino?
I believe so. Listen, I can't see them, you know, even considering moving him on. He's a quality manager, but I just think he's got this wrong. You know, and he's got to address whatever's happening because, again, the quality players that they have shouldn't be losing 7-2 to anyone because, again, these are Champions League finalists. You know, getting to the Champions League finals and to lose 7-2. There's a certain know-how that, you know, if we're playing, there's a certain know-how that if as a manager you're not there, we could still get through a certain part of the game and do okay. But you
can manage the game yourselves on the pitch.
As players, yeah, you know how to manage that. You know how to say, let's stay into the game, everybody digs in, or whether you got the lead, the advantage, and you say, right, we're counter-attacking. There's a certain know-how, and these players have that, but tonight...
So do you think then, Shaun, that they have got to those players, they've got to take some of that responsibility, regardless of whatever the tactics were? Have they got to take some of the responsibility for that defeat?
If I'm a player in the dressing room, I take responsibility as a player in my role as a forward, whether that's not making runs, not creating chances, not putting away chances, and I'm sure Harry Kane will be one of those that will be straight away within himself saying he will take responsibility in whatever part he could have done better. Because when you lose 7-2, you can't say that I scored as a player and go, well, it's your rest. There's other
Well, I
parts you
have
have
heard
to
that
do.
about a few strikers. I'm not got beat 5-1. Yeah, I got mine.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Pochettino, I mean, I can't see him being under any pressure whatsoever. Just because I feel if he ever hit that open market, there'll be a whole host of clubs that are going to come and get him. And I just don't think Spurs are willing to take that risk. So yeah, I mean, on his resume, it looks awful that they've beat 7-2. But as far as him being under pressure, I don't think he's under pressure, not one bit.
Might have ratcheted up a little bit more tonight with Real Madrid only managing a 2-2 draw with Bruges. Big question marks at the Bernabeu.
Well, to be fair, I mean, he's been linked before, isn't he, to go there, and you're right, they're not pulling up any trees at the minute. They're really struggling this season. So that's what I'm saying. That's why I can't see Spurs and Daniel Levy saying, you know what, let's part ways and thanks for everything you've done, but move on. Because
Daniel Levy still believes in him, doesn't he?
I think everyone at Spurs still believes in
Absolutely.
him, and they know how much of a good manager he is, because you can't take that risk and letting him hit that market, because you'll have 6-7 teams going, OK, we'll try and take him. So I don't think Spurs will take that risk, and I don't think Pochettino would, well, I don't think he'd want to leave, but you never know. Maybe he feels like he's got as far, because to me, sometimes when I look at him, he's got that kind of mentality and that attitude where he's thinking, well, I've taken this club to a Champions League final, like, what more can I do? Like, I'm not really buying the players I want to bring in. I'm seeing my rivals spend all this kind of money. I can't bring these all signings in, and sometimes you do become a very frustrated figure.
For me, Tottenham, they tick all the boxes. They got the best stadium right now. They all got quality players. They got a quality manager. I agree, is not under pressure at all, but they need to sort of bring some silverware, and tonight doesn't play out too well, because that's a hammering that they've got to pick themselves up and bounce back to be challenging on all fronts. OK, well, speaking of ticking all the right boxes, Manchester City certainly did that this evening. A nice, comfortable 2-0 win. It was no drama at all, was there, Shaun? Yeah, I thought it'd be a two-goal sort of...
In fairness, you did say that before we even went on air. 2-0 tonight.
Well, for me, City do exactly what we anticipate. Fernandinho back there, for me, I don't have any worries or concerns. Cancelo comes in. I can see that he still needs more games to adjust to. I know it was Champions Leagues, but he'll get himself stronger and more confident. But pleased that Phil Foden's got some minutes and gets on the score sheet and kisses the badge. So a little personal one there for the fans. There, that's for you. Okay.
Will that help the Manchester City fans fall in love with this competition? Because now,
no.
Because when you hear, we heard Pep talking about it yesterday, saying we need you with us. Now, a sizable number go, but they just don't seem to have the same feeling for the competition for historical reasons. What's going to happen for them to really fall in love with the competition? Yeah,
well, it's a tricky one, because it's multiple reasons. Some is City fans feel a bit hard done by UEFA in regards to the competition.
Yep.
Financial fair play. They feel that that's been raised, perhaps to go more gang City. When there was a banning or game in, I think it was Moscow, fans weren't allowed. There was some 600 or something odd fans, Russian fans, but not City fans. So it's a multitude of things, and so.
But that's
I think City fans. I think so much financial because City fans are typically working class, and not only that, City fans have come up on the Premiership and Championship. The average or the majority of the fans, the young fans, the new young fans, they only know about winning the Premier League and all the trophies more recently. So it's a difficult one, but I perhaps right to ask this of the fans, because believe me, we get to the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and finals, the fans are there. But I think with some fans, it's a real struggle to make these games, pay to go to these games, and as an additional cost.
Is it an expectation as well? Because obviously I look at this team they played tonight, and I mean, you said 2, I expected them to steamroll them, but I don't know how many, because Manchester City.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder if fans come out and think, well, we know we're gonna blast this team, so I want
save my money for the next one.
Yeah, I'll save my money for the next one.
Yeah. I mean, that. I go to games and I sort of predict always a win. It's very seldom I say, well, City will lose this. And I think exactly right. It's expectation. There's an expectation, and fans just think, well, we'll win that game. I'll save my pennies for the league game, because City fans want to consistently win the league, and that's. For me, that's majority. I'd probably say 90% of the fans want to win the league, and we'll all be celebrating we won the Champions League, believe me. but there's something really special.
So
Liverpool.
offer you, and you can speak on behalf of every single City fan and the club, everybody.
That phone will be buzzing now, yeah.
I offer you Champions League or Premier League this season. What are you taking?
What would I take?
You can only have one.
If I could only have one, I would take the Champions League.
Right, it's just completely...
I know you're asking.
I would take Champions League because, again, winning the league is important for the fans, but the Champions League, it's just for me, I would take the Champions League.
I'd like to see them win the Champions League just because I feel that not that they've earned it, because you've got to earn that right in that respect. But I just feel the way their team plays in the Premier League, and the way Guardiola's got them playing and where they've come from as well, just saying, I think it'd be fitting for them to win the Champions League, because I do feel on paper and the way they play, they are the best side in Europe. Like when on their day they can beat anyone, but as I said, you've got to earn that respect.
OK, we have to take a break right now, but afterwards we'll be talking Leeds, who went top of the table tonight, and also looking back to the Monday Night Football.